What's going on, guys? B. Scott here with you, and on today's show, we got your running back sit starts heading in to week number 8. Obviously, I'm going to rattle off the must-start running backs, but then I got a few that I think you should be getting in your lineups, and then a few that I would potentially be sitting heading into week number 8. So keep it locked and loaded right here at the first 4 downs. What's going on, guys, and welcome back. As I mentioned in the preview, we're going over your running back sit starts heading into week number 8. So before we get to today's content, don't forget, like the video, subscribe, share, thumb bell, all that good stuff, and then comment. If there's a running back I didn't mention, because honestly, I can't mention every single one, drop it in the comment section, and I'll be glad to give you my opinion on whether you should start them, sit them, flex them, things like that. And any start-sit questions at all, drop in the comment section, and I'll be glad to give you my opinion. So I'm going to start with the must-start running backs. These are running backs that I think you should just be setting and forgetting, especially this week. Actually, I like a lot of running backs heading into week number 8, but these are my must-start running backs that you should just be setting and forgetting. So number 1, Dalvin Cook playing the Dallas Cowboys. Top 5 option, you're starting him. Derrick Henry, same thing. Playing the Indianapolis Colts, you're starting him here. Jonathan Taylor has played great. Gets Tennessee Titans at home. I like him as a start. It's obvious. Austin Eckler, you're firing him too. Playing the New England Patriots, he's a must-start player. DeAndre Swift, at this point, is a top 5 running back. Playing the Philadelphia Eagles, give up the 5th most fantasy points to running backs. So I like DeAndre Swift this week especially. I think the Detroit Lions have a real potential shot of picking up their first victory at home this season. And Jamal Williams, another guy that I will just mention. I don't have him in there, but I'll throw him in there. A potential sleeper. I think you can find the end zone in this one. So Alvin Kamara, you're going to be starting him here. Playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Very good on the ground, especially against running backs. And Kamara just makes work in the pass game. So you're starting Alvin Kamara on a weekly basis. Zeke Elliott, he's back from bye, playing the Minnesota Vikings. You're starting him. Najee Harris playing the Cleveland Browns. A couple of these guys don't have great matchups, but Najee Harris seeing huge volume here. So you got to roll with Najee Harris. You have him in your lineup. He's been great. So Aaron Jones, another guy. He hasn't seen the big volume. His volume's really trickled down, but heading into Thursday Night Football, going against the Arizona Cardinals, who are pretty good against the running back position, I think Green Bay Packers are going to get creative and run the football pretty heavily. I think without Allen Lazard, without Devontae Adams, these running backs are actually going to do a lot this week. I really like both of them potentially, but Aaron Jones especially. He's a must-start running back. Leonard Fournette, playing the New Orleans Saints, actually been very good against the running backs, but Fournette's been more than fair, especially if you have him as your RB2. So you got to be firing him here. He's got the potential for 3, 4, 5 receptions on a weekly basis. So Leonard Fournette is a start for me. Joe Mixon, going against the New York Jets, obvious must start. Most fantasy points allowed to the running back position, New York Jets. So smash spot here. James Robinson, another guy, just completely picked up his play. So I like him here against Seattle Seahawks, who have not been very good against running backs. Their defense as a whole has not been great. So James Robinson, he's a start for me. Nick Chubb, playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. If he's there and healthy, you got to be firing Nick Chubb. And it's a tough matchup, Pittsburgh. I want to say give up 7th, 8th fewest fantasy points to running backs. Still pretty good against the running back position, but it's Nick Chubb, so you're starting him. And then another guy, Darrell Henderson. Throw it out here, playing the Houston Texans. Easy matchup. Coming off an easy matchup last week and didn't really do what we expected him to do. I think he gets it done this week against Houston. So now, let's get to my running backs that I say you should be must-starting this week. I got 5 or 6 here, and we'll start with Damien Harris. Damien Harris played great over the last 2 weeks, over 100 yards rushing in back-to-back games with a touchdown. He gets the Los Angeles Chargers, giving up 3rd most fantasy points to the running back position. They've given up 5.3 yards per carry on average to running backs, and the 2nd most rushing touchdowns in the league at 8. 2 straight games of allowing 3 rushing scores, the Los Angeles Chargers defense. So I like Damien Harris here. I get it. The game script hopefully doesn't get out of hand. Los Angeles Chargers, they are a good offense, so they could get up in this game. But I still am going to be firing Damien Harris here just on the pure volume alone. And then Brandon Bolden also in this game. Potentially, if it turns into a shootout, you could see Brandon Bolden, as long as Ramondre Stevenson is inactive. Once again, you got to pay attention to that. I think if he's inactive, Brandon Bolden turns into a must-start player. Just the James White role in general, 4, 5, 6 receptions, especially in full PPR. I like both these running backs heading into week number 8. So then I'll move on to CHUBA Hubbard. Honestly, had kind of a down game. The Carolina offense as a whole, I don't know what's going on. The team is really just falling apart. The defense isn't getting it done to the extent that we hoped. Honestly, losing to the New York Football Giants, it's kind of embarrassing. But CHUBA Hubbard, I like the matchup this week against the Atlanta Falcons. They've allowed nearly 7 receptions per game to the running back position. I think Hubbard, if he's going to get it done, it's going to be through the air this week. And I think on the ground, they really need to establish that run a little bit better. They wanted to last week. Didn't see it happen. I like Chuba Hubbard going into this matchup as a potential solid RB2 in a divisional game. So let's move on to Kenneth Gainwell. At the Detroit Lions, it's a good spot here. Miles Sanders dealing with an injury. More than likely going to miss the game. They haven't necessarily ruled him out yet, but he's probably going to miss. So Kenneth Gainwell, I don't think he picks up all the load of Miles Sanders, but I like the matchup. Detroit Lions give up the second most fantasy points to the running back position. 6 receiving touchdowns, which is most in the league. And I think Gainwell's going to do a lot of his work in the receiving game anyway. Now, yeah, you'll probably see Boston Scott in this game, but I potentially could see a game where there's a lot of neutral game script, possibly even negative game script. I really like the Detroit Lions to possibly pull out this victory here. So give me Kenneth Gainwell, as the Detroit Lions have allowed 4 different running backs a receiving touchdown. So I like Kenneth Gainwell this week as a sneaky good option, possibly a flex guy or a low-end RB2. KHALIL Herbert, another guy, playing the San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco giving up a rushing touchdown in 4 straight games. Herbert has averaged 18-plus carries over his last 3 games, averaging 4.9 yards per carry. He's added the receiving work, 5 receptions last week. And Damien Williams, I mean, obviously he didn't get a lot of practice time, so I understand them not utilizing him as much this last week. But KHALIL Herbert's played great over the last 3 weeks, and I think it's just going to continue on, and they're going to keep feeding him here. So I like KHALIL Herbert as a start for me. Got to be getting him in your lineups. And my last start, Zach Moss, Buffalo Bills. Now, yes, coming off a kind of a down game. Honestly, to the Tennessee Titans, that game was neutral or negative at most of the time, and there was them being in no positive game trip. So that hurts Zach Moss's value. But this week, playing the Miami Dolphins, there should be plenty of positive game script here. 6 most fantasy points to running backs, the 2nd most rushing scores. Week 2, when Zach Moss faced this Miami Dolphins team, he saw 2 times in the end zone in garbage time, and I'm pretty much predicting that there's probably going to be some garbage time here. So Zach Moss, I like the game script. He's still out snapping or out carrying Devin Singletary, and he gets the red zone work. So I like Zach Moss as a potential low-end RB2 flex type option this week. Now on to some sits. Running backs, some of them you probably couldn't even have on your roster, but Mike Davis versus Carolina Panthers at this point is droppable. 4 carries for 10 yards last week. You come out of the bye, and Cordero Patterson's really overtaken that entire load. And this week, it's not a good spot, even for Cordero Patterson, but you're probably starting him just because he's been so good, especially in the pass game. But the Carolina defense, giving up fewest fantasy points to running backs, and Mike Davis just hasn't looked good. All season long, he hasn't been able to put it together. He's not getting enough workload. At this point, like I said, you're looking for better options. He's only averaging 3.2 yards per carry on the season, so no thank you to Mike Davis. He's, at this point, either on your bench or droppable in 10-team leagues, things like that. Melvin Gordon against Washington football team. I don't really love it here. 10 fewer carries in 4 straight games. Javonte Williams has really shined, especially in the pass game. You saw it last week. And I don't know if I love the matchup here because most teams don't tend to run on Washington football team because they can pass on him all day long. The secondary is the struggle. So Melvin Gordon, unless he finds the end zone in this one, I don't think he's going to find the worth that you're hoping for as a starter. Javonte Williams, almost on that similar boat. But I like Javonte Williams. I just think he's the more explosive player going forward. But they're still in that complete 50-50 timeshare, and I don't necessarily love the matchup. So Melvin Gordon, I'd be sitting him this week. Myles Gaskin, playing the Buffalo Bills. Now, yes, Malcolm Brown put on IR. That's a good thing for Myles Gaskin. He should see an uptick in a lot of his production. But Buffalo giving up the 4th fewest fantasy points to running backs. Outside of Derrick Henry last week, 3 rushing touchdowns. They've given up 0 rushing touchdowns, 2 in running back on the season. So I don't like the matchup here. The best case scenario for Myles Gaskin is obviously garbage time. He could see 4, 5, 6 receptions. So if you play in a full PPR league, maybe you still roll him out there as a low-end flex option. But Devontae Parker, they're hoping he's back and playing. Will Fuller, not going to be back this week, not expected back, but in the coming days, in the coming weeks, he should be back soon. So that hurts Myles Gaskin going forward. I don't really like him as a start this week. I don't think he gets it done on the ground. And then maybe he gets some receiving work in garbage time. That's your only hope. But for me, he's going to be a sit. And then Alex Collins. It's actually not that bad of a matchup for Alex Collins. Jacksonville giving up the 8th most fantasy points to running backs, but allowing just 3.6 yards per carry. They've given up 8 rushing scores. Yes, that's a good thing. But Alex Collins, my worry, he's a little banged up. On top of that, Rashad Penny. It looks like they're going to work him in even more. And honestly, for his first game, yeah, he got out-carried by Alex Collins. But for his first game action and still seeing, 6, 7 carries, something like that, Rashad Penny is more than likely going to overtake Alex Collins, or at least at the bare minimum 50-50 split in this backfield. And under Geno Smith, that offense just looks really, really predictable. It's hard for me to trust Alex Collins going forward, even though he had a great game 2 weeks ago against the Pittsburgh Steelers, 100 yards and a touchdown. He was going to have a tough day this week against the tough Saints front. Now he's got Jacksonville. It's not a bad matchup, but I worry if he doesn't find the end zone in this one, he's going to leave you wanting more. So that's the running backs. That's your starts, sits, and obviously your must-start running backs heading into week number 8. There's a few guys I didn't mention, so if you want to hear about them, drop in the comment section. I'll be glad to give you my opinion, because honestly, I got some other guys that I think you could potentially start, but in some somewhat tough matchups. But don't forget, like the video, subscribe, share a thumb bell, all that good stuff, and then, like I mentioned, drop a comment if you have any questions at all. So for the first 4 downs, it's been B. Scott.